The alien barracks were alive with chatter and laughter. The newest recruit, Alex Carter, stood awkwardly at the edge of the training ground. Unlike the towering alien soldiers with their muscular frames and advanced cybernetic implants, Alex looked plain and unimpressive. His human features were met with sneers and amused glances. "What's Earth sending us these days? Is this some kind of joke?" A bulky reptilian alien named Drake sneered, his scaly tail swishing with contempt. "Maybe he's here to clean the floors," added another alien, a tall, insect-like creature with gleaming mandibles. Alex heard the jabs, but didn't react. He simply tightened the straps of his gear and waited for the training session to begin. The first challenge was simple, a target shooting exercise. The aliens lined up, each soldier demonstrating their precision with advanced plasma rifles. One by one, they fired, hitting bullseyes with ease. When it was Alex's turn, the laughter returned. "Don't hurt yourself, rookie," Drake called out, earning a round of chuckles from the group. Alex stepped up to the line, holding the alien weapon awkwardly. He aimed, fired, and deliberately missed the target by a wide margin. The aliens erupted in laughter, and Alex scratched the back of his head, pretending to be embarrassed. Inside, he was calm. Observing. Learning. The next drill was hand-to-hand combat. Paired against a massive alien with 4 arms, Alex seemed doomed to fail. The alien charged at him, and Alex dodged clumsily, barely avoiding a heavy blow. The spectators roared with laughter as Alex stumbled and fell to the ground. "I've seen hatchlings with better reflexes," the instructor muttered, shaking his head. But Alex wasn't trying to win. Not yet. He was studying their movements, noting their patterns and weaknesses. Every punch, every feint, and every step was committed to memory. That night, as the barracks fell silent, Alex stayed awake. In the shadows of the empty training ground, he practiced. His movements were swift and precise, a stark contrast to the bumbling rookie the aliens saw during the day. His training back on Earth had been intense, focused on blending in and striking when least expected. He had a plan, and he was patient. The opportunity came sooner than he expected. During a routine patrol mission, the team was ambushed by a group of hostile alien raiders. The attackers were relentless, their weapons cutting through the air with deadly precision. The alien soldiers, despite their size and strength, were caught off guard. Panic spread through the group as they struggled to form a defense. Alex stayed low, observing the chaos. The squad's leader, a seasoned alien warrior, was pinned down, shouting orders that no one could hear over the gunfire. Drake, the loudest of Alex's tormentors, was frozen in place, his earlier bravado nowhere to be found. "We're gonna get slaughtered," one soldier yelled, desperation in his voice. Alex took a deep breath. It was time to act. Moving swiftly, he darted between the scattered cover, his movements calculated and precise. He reached the squad leader and gestured toward the enemy's position. "Give me cover fire," Alex said firmly. The leader hesitated but nodded. Too desperate to argue. As the aliens laid down suppressive fire, Alex moved. He used the terrain to his advantage, flanking the attackers with a level of skill that left his squad mates stunned. With a combination of quick reflexes and deadly accuracy, he took out one raider after another. His movements were fluid, almost graceful, as if he'd done this 1,000 times before. The tide of the battle shifted. Inspired by Alex's courage and skill, the alien soldiers regrouped and fought back with renewed determination. Within minutes, the raiders were defeated, retreating into the shadows from which they came. As the dust settled, the squad gathered around Alex. Their faces, once full of mockery, were now filled with awe. Drake stepped forward, his expression a mix of embarrassment and respect. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" he asked, his voice quieter than usual. Alex shrugged, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Just some old human training techniques," he said casually. The squad leader approached, placing a heavy hand on Alex's shoulder. "You saved us today, rookie. Looks like we've been underestimating humans." Alex met his gaze, his expression calm but determined. "Humans have a way of surprising you," he said. From that day on, the laughter and sneers stopped. The alien soldiers no longer saw Alex as a joke. Instead, they saw him as one of their own, a warrior with a strength that went beyond physical size or advanced technology. Alex had earned their respect, not through words, but through action. And as the squad prepared for their next mission, they couldn't help but wonder, just how much more was the human rookie hiding? The training arena was buzzing with activity. Recruits from across the galaxy gathered to prove their worth, showcasing their unique abilities. Towering reptilian warriors crushed heavy boulders with ease, while sleek, insectoid creatures demonstrated their incredible speed and agility. Amidst this display of alien power stood Daniel Hayes, the only human in the group. He was unremarkable by comparison, shorter, leaner, and without any visible enhancements. The aliens barely noticed him. "Are you sure this is the right place for you?" A crimson-scaled warrior sneered, crossing his massive arms. "Humans are fragile, aren't they?" Daniel gave a small smile but didn't respond. He'd heard this all before. It was better to stay quiet and observe. That's what he was good at. The first test was a strength challenge. Recruits were tasked with lifting a series of increasingly heavy weights. The aliens took their turns, each performing impressively. The reptilian warrior from earlier lifted the final weight, a massive, glowing cube, with ease, roaring in triumph. When it was Daniel's turn, the crowd chuckled. He approached the lightest weight, pretended to struggle, and barely managed to lift it off the ground. Laughter erupted around him. "Pathetic," muttered a cybernetic recruit with glowing blue eyes. Daniel stepped back, seemingly unfazed. Inside, he was carefully assessing the situation. He noted the confidence of the reptilian warrior, the precision of the cybernetic alien, and the arrogance that came with their abilities. Next was the agility course. The insectoids excelled, darting through the obstacles with incredible speed. One even flipped over a spinning blade, landing gracefully on the other side. When it was Daniel's turn, he stumbled over the first hurdle, barely avoiding a faceplant. The alien's laughter grew louder, and Daniel rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. "How did a human even get accepted into this program?" one alien asked, shaking his head. Daniel's failure became the talk of the arena. The recruits whispered and joked about him, certain he wouldn't last another day. But Daniel wasn't here to impress them. Not yet. The third test was a combat simulation. Each recruit was placed in a virtual battlefield, tasked with surviving against waves of enemy drones. The recruits entered the pods one by one. The reptilian warrior charged through the enemies with brute strength, smashing drones left and right. The cybernetic recruit used precise strikes, disabling drones with calculated efficiency. The insectoids danced around their enemies, their speed making them untouchable. When Daniel entered the pod, the aliens barely paid attention. They expected another failure. As the simulation began, Daniel moved cautiously, keeping to the shadows. He didn't attack immediately, instead watching the drone's movements. "What is he doing?" an insectoid recruit asked, puzzled. "He's just hiding." But Daniel wasn't hiding. He was analyzing. Every drone had a pattern, a predictable rhythm in its movements. He waited for the perfect moment and struck, disabling one drone with a single precise hit. Then another. And another. His movements were deliberate, efficient, and almost mechanical. By the end of the simulation, Daniel had cleared more drones than any other recruit. The arena fell silent. The recruits stared at the scoreboard where Daniel's name sat at the top. How did he do that? The reptilian warrior growled, his earlier confidence shaken. Daniel stepped out of the pod, his expression calm. "Humans may not be the strongest or the fastest," he said. "But we adapt. We analyze. And we learn." The next test was teamwork. Recruits were divided into squads and tasked with retrieving a glowing orb from a heavily guarded fortress. Daniel's team consisted of the recruits who had mocked him the most: the reptilian warrior, the cybernetic alien, and an insectoid. None of them wanted to follow his lead. "Stay out of our way, human," the reptilian said gruffly. "We don't need you slowing us down." Daniel nodded, letting them take charge. The team rushed into the fortress, relying on brute force and speed. But the defenses were too strong. Automated turrets and energy barriers picked them off one by one. The reptilian roared in frustration as the team fell apart. "Enough," Daniel said, stepping forward. His calm tone caught their attention. "What's your plan, rookie?" the cybernetic recruit asked, skeptical. Daniel quickly outlined a strategy, using each recruit's abilities to their advantage. The insectoid would scout ahead, mapping the defenses. The reptilian would draw enemy fire, using his strength to shield the team. The cybernetic alien would disable the energy barriers, clearing a path for Daniel to retrieve the orb. Reluctantly, they followed his plan. And it worked. The team moved like a well-oiled machine, each member playing their part perfectly. When Daniel returned with the orb, the team erupted in cheers. For the first time, the recruits looked at Daniel with respect. "Maybe humans aren't so bad after all," the reptilian admitted, a grudging smile on his face. Daniel simply nodded. He didn't need their approval. He had proven himself through actions, not words. And as the recruits prepared for the next challenge, they couldn't help but wonder, what other talents was this human hiding? In the heart of the Milky Way, aboard the starship Zephyr, recruits from various planets gathered for their first intergalactic mission. Among them was Liam Carter, the only human in the crew. Shorter and less imposing than his alien counterparts, Liam's presence barely registered. The other recruits viewed him as an oddity, someone unlikely to survive their rigorous missions. The captain, a stern and towering reptilian named Kaler, briefed the team on their assignment: infiltrate a heavily guarded enemy outpost and retrieve a critical data chip. The mission was straightforward but dangerous. The alien recruits, each boasting unique abilities, smirked as Liam listened intently. "Stay out of our way, human," growled Rax, a muscular alien with 6 arms. "This isn't a job for someone as fragile as you." Liam didn't respond. He simply adjusted his gear and followed the team to the drop zone. Inside, he felt the familiar spark of determination. He had a plan, and it didn't involve proving himself with words. The team landed on a barren metallic planet under a sky choked with smog. The outpost loomed ahead, surrounded by automated turrets and patrolling drones. The recruits split into teams, each tasked with disabling a part of the defense system. Liam was paired with Zira, an insectoid alien with sharp mandibles and a sharper tongue. "Try not to slow me down," she hissed, darting ahead without waiting for him. Liam followed at a steady pace, his sharp eyes scanning the area. Zira rushed toward a control panel near the turret base, her speed making her almost invisible. But just as she reached the panel, an alarm blared. Hidden sensors had detected her presence. Turrets swiveled, targeting her. "Help me, human!" she screeched, dodging laser fire. Liam acted quickly. Pulling out a small EMP device he had modified earlier, he tossed it toward the turret. The device emitted a pulse, disabling the weapons momentarily. Zira stared at him in shock as she scurried back to safety. "How did you?" she began, but Liam cut her off. "The sensors react to heat signatures above a certain threshold. You were moving too fast," he explained. "Next time, try pacing yourself." Zira said nothing, but for the first time, she looked at him with something other than disdain. As the teams moved deeper into the outpost, they encountered more challenges. Rax's brute strength was useless against the laser grids protecting the main corridor. The cybernetic recruit, Vex, tried hacking into the system, but triggered another alarm instead. "We're wasting time," Kaler barked over the comms. Liam stepped forward. "Let me try," he said calmly. Rax snorted. What could you possibly do that Vex couldn't? Ignoring the comment, Liam studied the laser grid. He noticed a subtle pattern in the beams, a tiny window of opportunity every few seconds. "There's a sequence," he said. "If we time it right, we can get through without triggering the system." Before anyone could argue, Liam demonstrated. He moved through the grid with precise timing, reaching the other side unscathed. The others hesitated, then followed his lead. Even Rax, grumbling under his breath, had to admit Liam had been right. Finally, the team reached the central chamber where the data chip was stored. But the chamber was guarded by a towering robotic sentinel, armed with energy cannons and shields. The recruits prepared for a fight, but Liam held up a hand. "Wait," he said. "We don't need to fight it." "What are you talking about?" Kaler demanded. The Sentinel is programmed to defend the chip, Liam explained. But it's also following a set of protocols. If we disrupt its programming, we can shut it down without a fight. Vex frowned. I already tried hacking into their systems. The firewall is too strong. Liam smiled faintly. I'm not gonna hack it. I'm gonna trick it. He pulled out a small device, a holographic emitter he had tinkered with back on the Zephyr. Activating it, he projected an image of a high-ranking enemy officer. The Sentinel paused, scanning the hologram. Recognizing the officer as an ally, it lowered its weapons and powered down. The team stared in disbelief as Liam walked up to the pedestal and retrieved the data chip. On the journey back to the Zephyr, the recruits were uncharacteristically quiet. Finally, Kaler spoke. You outsmarted that entire outpost, human, he said, his voice tinged with respect. How? Liam shrugged. Humans aren't the strongest or the fastest. But we've had to survive in a universe much bigger than us. We think differently. That's our strength. Rax crossed his arms but nodded. Guess we underestimated you, rookie. Back on the ship, Liam returned to his quarters, content. He didn't need applause or recognition. Outsmarting the galaxy was reward enough. And he knew this was just the beginning. The interstellar military base was alive with activity. New recruits from countless species filled the training grounds, each showcasing their unique skills. Some had razor-sharp claws, others had wings that allowed them to glide effortlessly. Among them stood Adam Pierce, the only human in the batch. He was neither the tallest nor the strongest, and his quiet demeanor made him easy to overlook. The aliens around him barely paid him any attention. What's a fragile human doing here? Snickered Gorak, a hulking alien with 4 arms and scales that shimmered under the sunlight. Maybe he's here for comic relief, added Zinra, an insectoid recruit whose 6 legs clicked against the ground as she moved. Adam ignored them. He adjusted his gear and waited for the day's challenge to begin. He wasn't here to make friends or prove himself with words. He had his own way of standing out, but he knew better than to show his hand too early. The first test was a combat simulation. Recruits were placed in pairs and sent into a holographic battlefield to face off against waves of robotic enemies. Adam was paired with Jarek, a cybernetic alien who seemed more machine than flesh. Stay out of my way, human, Jarek said coldly as they entered the simulation. I'll handle this. As the robots charged, Jarek unleashed a barrage of laser blasts from his arm cannons. His accuracy was impressive, and he quickly destroyed several enemies. Adam, on the other hand, seemed to move cautiously, sticking to the edges of the battlefield. To the spectators, it looked like he was avoiding the fight entirely. Is he hiding? Gorak laughed from the viewing area. But Adam wasn't hiding. He was studying. Every robot had a weakness, a small delay between their attacks, or a vulnerable joint in their armor. When the opportunity arose, Adam struck with precision. One robot after another fell, each disabled with a single, calculated hit. By the end of the simulation, Jarek's flashy attacks had caused collateral damage, leaving parts of the battlefield in ruins. Adam, however, had taken out more robots with minimal effort and no unnecessary destruction. The scoreboard flashed their results. Adam's name sat at the top. The recruits fell silent. Even Gorek's smug grin faded. Jarek stared at Adam, his cybernetic eye glowing faintly. Beginner's luck, he muttered, though he didn't sound convinced. The second test was a strategy challenge. The recruits were divided into teams and tasked with capturing a flag from an enemy-controlled bunker. Most of the aliens relied on brute force, charging in headfirst and trying to overpower the defenses. Adam's team was no different. Follow my lead, Zinra said, her tone commanding. We'll overwhelm them with speed. As the team rushed forward, turrets activated, firing energy blasts. Zinra's speed allowed her to dodge some of the shots, but the rest of the team was quickly pinned down. Chaos erupted as the recruits tried to regroup. This isn't working, one recruit yelled. Adam scanned the battlefield, noting the turret placements and the gaps in their firing patterns. Give me 2 minutes, he said calmly. The others hesitated but didn't stop him. Adam moved carefully, staying low and using the terrain to his advantage. He found a small control panel hidden behind a boulder. With a few quick adjustments, he deactivated the turrets and cleared a path to the bunker. The team retrieved the flag without further resistance. As they returned to the base, Zinra looked at Adam, her mandibles clicking in thought. "How did you know about the control panel?" she asked. Adam shrugged. "I pay attention. The final test was the most difficult, an escape simulation. Recruits were placed in a maze-like structure filled with traps and puzzles. The goal was to reach the exit before time ran out. Each recruit entered alone, their progress tracked on a large screen. One by one, the recruits failed. Some fell into traps, others got lost. When Adam's turn came, the aliens barely watched. They expected him to fail just like the others. But as the timer ticked down, Adam navigated the maze with remarkable efficiency. He disarmed traps with ease, solving puzzles faster than the observers could keep up. His progress was so smooth that by the time he reached the exit, even the most skeptical recruits were leaning forward, watching in awe. When Adam emerged from the simulation chamber, the room was silent. Then Kaler, the commanding officer, stepped forward. His stern expression softened into a rare smile. "Impressive work, rookie," he said. "You don't rely on brute strength or flashy moves, but you've proven that brains can outmatch brawn." Gorak crossed his arms, looking uncomfortable. "Maybe humans aren't as weak as they seem," he admitted grudgingly. Adam met his gaze with a calm smile. "We've had to adapt to survive. Sometimes that's all it takes." As the recruits left the training grounds, whispers filled the air. The human rookie, dismissed as unremarkable at first, had become the talk of the base. And though Adam didn't seek their approval, he couldn't help but feel a small sense of satisfaction. He had proven, not with words but with actions, that even the most underestimated individual could rise to the challenge. For Adam, this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and he was ready to show it what humans were truly capable of. The vast training grounds of the Galactic Alliance Academy buzzed with activity. Recruits from every corner of the universe were preparing for the ultimate mission simulation, a test designed to push even the most skilled cadets to their limits. In the corner of the briefing room, Ethan Gray, the lone human rookie, sat quietly, observing his peers. Unlike the towering warriors from Zarnak or the telepathic beings from Orovon, Ethan appeared unimpressive. He had no claws, no wings, no glowing eyes that could pierce through darkness. He was just an average human with a calm demeanor and sharp eyes. The other recruits barely acknowledged his presence. "Why is the human even here?" sneered Kraxus, a reptilian recruit with a powerful tail that could shatter steel. "He won't last 5 minutes. Maybe they brought him for entertainment," chuckled Lyra, a feline alien with sleek fur and razor-sharp reflexes. Ethan didn't respond. He tightened his gloves and waited for the mission to begin. Words wouldn't prove anything, actions would. The simulation began with a deafening roar as the recruits were dropped onto a barren, hostile planet. Their objective: infiltrate an enemy base, retrieve a critical artifact, and escape before reinforcements arrived. The planet's atmosphere crackled with electrical storms, and the terrain was littered with jagged rocks and molten rivers. As the recruits split into teams, Ethan found himself left behind. No one wanted to pair with the fragile human. Undeterred, he activated his helmet scanner and began mapping out a route to the base. He noticed a pattern in the storms, a brief lull every 7 minutes. Timing would be crucial. Meanwhile, Kraxus and Lyra charged ahead with their teams, relying on brute strength and speed. They tore through smaller enemy drones, but left a trail of destruction that alerted the main defenses. By the time they reached the base, alarms blared, and the defenses were on high alert. Ethan, on the other hand, moved methodically. He avoided unnecessary confrontations, using the terrain and storm patterns to his advantage. When he encountered a patrol drone, he disabled it quietly, analyzing its components for information. Inside the drone, he found a map of the base and the location of the artifact. Inside the enemy base, chaos erupted as Kraxus' team tried to fight their way through. The automated turrets and shielded guards proved too much, and their progress stalled. Lyra's team fared no better, trapped in a narrow corridor with no escape route. Ethan entered the base through an unguarded maintenance tunnel he had discovered on the drone's map. The tunnel led directly to the artifact's chamber, bypassing most of the defenses. As he approached the chamber, he saw the artifact, a glowing crystal pulsing with energy secured behind a laser grid. Activating his scanner, Ethan studied the grid. It operated on a rotational sequence with a 1-second gap every 30 seconds. Timing his movements perfectly, he slipped through the grid and retrieved the artifact. The moment he removed it, an alarm sounded, and a countdown began. The base would self-destruct in 5 minutes. Ethan's calm voice came over the recruit's comms. "I have the artifact. Meet me at the extraction point." Craxus growled in frustration. How did the human get the artifact? "Doesn't matter," Lyra snapped. "Let's move." The recruits raced toward the extraction point, but the base's defenses were relentless. Turrets fired, drones swarmed, and the ground shook as explosions rippled through the structure. Ethan's voice came through again. "There's a secondary exit near your position," he said, sharing the coordinates. "It'll be faster." The teams followed his directions, finding the exit just as the walls began to collapse. Outside, Ethan was already waiting, the artifact secured in a protective case. A transport shuttle descended, its ramp lowering for the recruits to board. As they climbed aboard, Craxus glared at Ethan. "How did you do it?" he demanded. Ethan met his gaze calmly. "By thinking ahead. While you were fighting, I was planning. While you were rushing, I was observing. Sometimes, it's not about strength or speed. It's about using your mind." Lyra's ears twitched, and for the first time, she looked at Ethan with respect. "You saved all of us," she admitted. "And you got the artifact. Maybe humans aren't so weak after all." Craxus grunted but said nothing. The other recruits nodded, their earlier mockery replaced with admiration. Back at the academy, the recruits were debriefed. The instructors praised Ethan's performance, highlighting his strategic thinking and calm under pressure. "Today, you proved that even in the face of overwhelming odds, a clear mind can prevail," said Commander Rylan. "You may have started as a rookie, but today you became a legend." The recruits erupted into applause, and for the first time, Ethan allowed himself a small smile. He hadn't set out to become a hero, but in that moment, he realized that sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. As he left the debriefing room, whispers followed him. The human rookie had done the impossible, and his name would be remembered not just at the academy, but across the galaxy.